Chapter 6. A Night at Otto's in Part 1. Caden. The night was young and warm. Sounds of life filled the woods with a chorus of blissful music. The last few days of travel had been paradise compared to the last few months. They were no longer in Daxodias, though Caden, despite all the harsh and brutal days in its wildlands, had grown to start liking the songs of its woods. But the songs of Xenicardia were just as comforting as he had remembered them. Crickets chirped, and frogs and toads croaked their songs. A bird made an occasional call every once in a while. The sounds of the gentle flowing creeks and streams echoed through the trees. There were now lamps lining the road that provided guiding light. They were made with luminous dedolite, which of all the dedolite ores and alloys was fairly common and was generally a sign of civilization. The lamps produced light that was silver in color, which indicated that they had officially entered into the domain of Agenor. Caden knew this road. It had been the one that he had gone on with Sir Sergio's company a little over a year ago when they had gone to hunt down the goblin chieftain. Caden had many days and months to decide what he felt. He still felt angry, betrayed and abandoned. But if there was any hatred in him at one point, he had abandoned it. Perhaps the teachings of Bahamut that Shoshu would share from time to time were influencing him. Sir Sergio and General Telemann needed to pay for their crimes. But at the moment, they were the least of his problems. All he cared about right now was surviving. He wanted to live. He wanted to be rid of this curse that plagued him. He would make them pay eventually, but he would not kill them unless it was absolutely necessary. Though he was fully ready to slay them should they refuse to confess their crimes and atone for the wrongs that they had committed. And despite having been betrayed by his son, Caden still found that he respected Lord Hortensio. He was not without faults, for he did treat Bloodfallen very poorly at times, but he was a man of honor. Bloodfallen could generally make a decent living and have a good life while in his city and domain. Best of all Lord Hortensio's qualities was his valor. Unlike his son and general, Caden had had first-hand account of Lord Hortensio actually being a true noble warrior, saving and protecting those within his domain, even going out of his way to get in between his Bloodfallen subjects and the enemy. Soon, Caden would be back in Garadon. That beautiful, lovely city that Lord Hortensio had reforged from ruin. The road continued on for a while. Caden knew there was an outpost in along this road. Its name was Otto's Inn. Old man Otto was a kindly, hardened hand. He had a lot of children and some grandchildren, and most of them helped him run the family business. His inn had been there before Lord Hortensio became count and rebuilt the city that had the closest road to the inn. It had survived the years despite being so close to the Daxodian border, because it constantly lodged soldiers and adventurers coming through. Some stayed because they were posted there, while others went through using the inn as a rest stop. With all that considered, the inn was essentially a military base. It was a lively and a delightful place. Otto's daughters and granddaughters had learned to become very good cooks, having to serve soldiers and adventurers for years, and their meals had become renowned within the Hortensio county. Otto and his sons in turn hunted the game, and gathered herbs and greenery being cultivated on their land. Bards frequented the inn because they always had a guaranteed audience in addition to really good food, and some were known to try and steal away the hearts of Otto's ladies. None of them had been successful, but still they tried. Caden was looking forward to seeing the inn again, though he was not sure how he was going to pay for anything. Shoshu had shown no signs of having any squalor with him, and Caden did not want to be any more of a burden on his dear friend. He had lost all the squalor he had on him at the raid on the Goblin Cave. He had some money back at his home in the city, though it had been over a year and the reports probably indicated that he had died in action. If proper procedures were followed, all of his belongings should have been sent to his family back in the Moss Grove. "Young master," Shoshu said, "we are approaching an inn that is right up ahead. I think it would be good if we stopped and rested there for the night." "I don't have a single squalor to my name at the moment," Caden replied, "and I'm not going to trade my rags or my blade. I have come too far to throw these things away." "Well, they probably would not fetch a good price anyways. I know some kobolds that would probably buy those things off you, but they would offer you at most 10, maybe 20 copper squalor for both the sword and the rags on your back. They might not even offer you any squalor, honestly, now that I think about it. They would probably try to trade with you using bones or rocks. This blade has become a companion to me. In my darkest hours it was by my side. It had been the only company that I had. The only friend I had while in those abyssal woods. Not until you found me. Now I have 2 companions, and I would not part with them for any price if I was to be tempted in trading them away. Your words are too kind, young master. I serve as I please. I serve because that is what I desire. I would not abandon you save only unless my greater master commands otherwise. But I am certain that my greater master wants me to follow you. The path of my pilgrimage is now the path that you walk. Bahamut in his great metallic glory provides a way for those who faithfully follow his teachings. Kaidin had found that Shoshu was well versed in speaking the common tongue of Anglicos, and the way he spoke with such dignity was quite notable. He took this as a sign that Shoshu was much more learned than the average kobold. Now that he thought about it, the kobold might actually be smarter than him. He was extremely knowledgeable in tracking through lands that were foreign to him, and he was an expert hunter and gatherer. He was not a master chef, but he knew how to properly prepare and cook things that would have been inedible without proper care and handling. He also knew how to combine ingredients to give beneficial effects to his dishes. Someone had taught this kobold quite the assortment of skills. You are free to follow me on my path, Shoshu, Kaidin said with assurance. I would welcome it. In fact, I would not mind if you stayed with me for as long as possible. Though, you have already done more than enough for me. And though it would sadden me, should you feel the need that your pilgrimage should take you elsewhere or that your master would have you go back to him, I would see you off with joy in my heart. I, truly would not have made it this far without your help. If there is anything I can do to repay you or your master, ask it of me and I shall do what I can to give back what is owed. You owe nothing to me or my master. Do not feel indebted to us. I promise you this, anything I give to you is meant for you. It is for you to take and for you to keep. The only thing that I ask is that you do not take lightly of these things, and to cherish not just the things that I help you with, but of the bountiful life that Bahamut provides. At first Kaidin had found it bothering how Shoshu would turn almost every conversation, if he could, into a sermon. But now, he loved it. He had been a somewhat devout follower of the Prime Pantheon, but he was nothing close to a paladin or a cleric. Though, with his experiences that he had had with Athena and this follower of Bahamut, Kaidin was thinking he could probably be a bit more pious. The ways and teachings of Bahamut that he had heard so far from Shoshu had been wonderful. The road opened up into a wide and great clearing. There stood Otto's Inn. It had a stone wall encircling its perimeter and great stone towers were erected at the corners of the wall. Rising above the wall, the top floors of the main inn could be seen. Dedalite lamps were everywhere making the entire area lit with silver and white light. Sounds of music and conversation could be heard coming from within. Strong aromas permeated the air, which was a sure sign Otto's ladies were cooking something fit for a king. Kaidin was not very famished as Shoshu's meals had provided energy enough to get by from day to day, but the smells were so enticing. Having forgotten just how good it felt to just live without having to be alert all night, outside in the mud, he realized just how much he wanted to have a nice, warm meal while within the comforting walls of the inn. Something smells quite good, I must say, Shoshu remarked. It probably tastes better than what I make. It has been a while since we have had a really good meal. Shall we go and see what's on the menu for tonight? Wait, Kaidin said. But we don't have any squama. Are you thinking of stealing from this place? Nonsense. Nonsense. Young master, I can pay for the both of us. My Dragon Lord has provided me with more than just tools. I should have squama enough for the both of us. Do you know what prices we may be looking at? It is 5 silver squama pieces a day and 5 silver squama pieces for food, for each guest. So, if you want the whole deal, then it will be a 1 gold piece a night for each of us. Otto does offer more services and goods for additional fees as well. Better rooms and accommodations cost more, which could possibly bring the total for one person to 5 or 6 gold pieces a day if you want the most luxury that Otto is selling. The only people that I could imagine spending that much gold a day would be high-ranking nobles and city lords. I'm not sure how much squama you have, Shoshu, but I think it would be best if we paid for the cheapest options that he provides. It won't be much, but it will be better than sleeping outside for once. Those prices do seem very reasonable. Being this close to the Daxodian border and having to provide lodging and food for soldiers is costly. Yes, Those prices are very reasonable. I would even go so far to say that they seem a very good deal. They approached the main gate of the inn. Posted at it were two guards wearing Agenorian armor stylized in the Hortensio fashion, which featured a blue and purple hydrangea crest usually on the chest piece. Their helms were off and they were enjoying some meat. There was a large platter of food on a table off to the side and it smelled heavenly. From the features of their faces, it was clear they were both at least a decade older than Caden, he himself being 23 years old, so they were probably in their 30s. Their eyes were stern and keen, a sign of years of experience. Both the guards, upon noticing a green kobold approaching, quickly took offensive stances and held out their spears as if to attack. "Wait!" Caden shouted. "He is with me." He pointed at his barely recognizable Hortensio military patch that was on his extremely worn-down uniform. Caden was aware that he looked like he was in pretty bad shape. His black hair had become very long and he was growing a short, unkempt beard. His uniform, the rags that he wore, had been designed to be able to last long and brave harsh weather, but it had looked as if he had been mauled by some monster, which was part of the truth. Dragging himself on the ground, and getting cut and snagged on rocks was the other part. "Soldier," the guard to Caden's left said, bewildered. He took a few seconds along with his partner to fully look Caden and Shoshu up and down. "The road you just came from is the one that leads into Daxodius, and you have a green kobold servant with you. By the Shining Crown regalia, you must have one extraordinary story to tell." Yes, Shoshu confirmed. "Our journey had been long and arduous. We are not enemies. We simply would like to pay for lodging and additional services offered at this here Otto's Inn." "Your words are pretty good for a green one," the other guard said. "Don't think I've ever seen a green one that can speak as well as this." He looked at Caden. "You must be an amazing tamer of beasts. You got a green one that speaks so well and politely. How did you train him?" "I did not train him anything," Caden answered. "If anything, he has been the one training me." Both guards looked at each other with looks of confusion and amusement. A kobold training a soldier. "Now that's something I've never heard of before," the guard to Caden's right continued. "How about we have a friendly spar to see what that kobold training has done for you? I'll agree to a spar tomorrow, and if you let us through." "Can't do that. We need papers or some other form of authentication before letting you through." "Is my patch and uniform not enough? You could have grabbed that off a poor fellow in the woods. I am clearly not an enemy or a threat to you. Both Shoshu and I have been pretty compliant and peaceful in our conversation so far. You can never be too safe around these parts. Trust me, this would not be the first time someone like you has shown up like this. Maybe not exactly in the same manner as you, but you get the point. If you really are one of our own, you should know proper procedure, especially regarding this area. Bandits, thieves, brigands, outlaws, goblins, trolls, hill giants, kobolds, they all show up from time to time and need to be dealt with. I've seen enough to know what to look out for." "Fine. Do you have any logs or records from the past year?" "I should also be registered in the Hortensio Citizen Cubes." Angel cubes were mostly known for their ability to store many things as if into a very small space, but they were in truth multifunctional magical devices capable of all sorts of things. One feature that could be modified into them was identification information, along with the ability to authenticate individuals with said information in the system. If these guards had access to one of the specially modified angel cubes, then Caden would be able to authenticate himself without further trouble. "We have all those things actually." The guard on his left went over and took out a key. He then opened a compartment within the stone wall and started taking out some of its contents. After about a minute of him searching through the compartment, he finally put several books on the table with their platter on it. He began to sift through the pages of the record books. "What is your name, soldier, and what dates would I be looking for?" "My name is Caden Rourke. The date and assignment you are looking for are year 2325 of the 10 prongs, start day the 6th of 4th month, assignment under Sir Sergio Hortensio and General Telemon, assignment name Central Daxodia's Goblin Raid." As Caden said the words, the guard looking at the record book froze. He looked up and stared Caden right in the eyes with a look of horror on his face as if he were looking at a ghost. That assignment had an over 70% casualty rate. Most of the blood-fallen soldiers died out there. One of them was a dear friend of mine. You can't really be one of them. That's impossible. It was over a year ago. No one could survive in Daxodias that long, especially with just a soldier's uniform and a basic soldier's long sword, the other guard said. You're lying. This is a trick. That green kobold, I should have guessed something was fishy. We're going to. Do you have the cube? Kaydin demanded. The guard at the table said nothing and grabbed an object buried underneath several record-keeping books. He pushed the cube on the table towards Kaydin. It glowed faintly with interchanging purple and blue hues. Kaydin placed his hand on the cube. It would take about a minute or two for it to identify and properly authenticate that he was an Agenorian soldier that served in the Ortancio County. The guard at the table resumed searching through the record books. He finally found it and recited most of the information that had already been said, but then he got to the report on Kaydin. Kaydin Rourke, age 22, born on the 18th day of 6th month in the year of 2303 of the 10 prongs. Soldier's rank before death was 9th prong. Soldier died honorably in battle, saving several crown-born soldiers by willingly running into a goblin trap. After taking several bolts from the trap, the soldier stood his ground and fought several goblins until they had overwhelmed him and had killed him. The goblins stole away with his body and it had been unretrievable. He has been posthumously promoted to 3rd prong rank. Well, at least Sergio kept one part of his promise, Kaydin thought. And if he was now 3rd prong rank, he would be higher ranking than these guards who were 5th prong rank by the details he could make out on their ornamental crests. The Agenorian nobility and its military had a fairly straightforward ranking system. 10 ranks called prongs to honor the 10 holy prongs of the crown of Zendivos. 1st prong rank was the highest, only being outranked by the king. It was usually only held by dukes, royal children, and bellatrixes. 2nd prong rank was usually held by generals in the military and counts. And then there was 3rd prong rank, which was usually held by lesser princes and princesses, and nobles and their children. Having been born bloodfallen, Kaydin had started out his life at 10th prong rank. It had taken him several hard years to finally get elevated to 9th prong rank through his service in the military. He saw so many of those who he had trained with get promoted up past him, both younger and older than him, both bloodfallen and crown-born, and yet he could never prove himself. It seemed like he had been given a squama coin that had had both its sides burned. He had been born with the wrong blood, and he had no mastery over anything. He was passable at the things he had set out to do, but he had not been very amazing at anything. Despite all he had been through, and even with his currently cursed state, things seemed like they were taking a turn for the better. His skills with the blade and fighting in general had monumentally improved thanks to the many battles in Daxodias and the sparring matches he had had with Shoshu. He had a plan and a path to find a way to cure his curse. And now he was 3rd prong rank, which meant he was now technically an Agenorian noble. The cube began to glow brighter, the color became more solid and pronounced. Kaydin held it with his arm outstretched and stared into it deeply. Who am I? The cube pulsed, and it produced a voice, one that scholars said was that of an elven maiden, the daughter of the original creator of the cubes, the daughter of Daedalus. You are Kaydin Rourke. You are a citizen of the kingdom of Agenor, of the Ortancio County. Your rank is 3rd prong. You have been recorded as dead in the system. Now that I have verified that you are alive, your state in the system shall be adjusted accordingly. The cube dimmed and went back to its faintly glowing state. Both guards were now absolutely petrified. Well, you have your authentication now. Can we go through? Kaydin said. Sir, you were really out there for over a year, the guard at the table genuinely asked. Yes. Kaydin recognized a change in the way the guard at the table was speaking, now with solidified respect. The guard using sir was recognizing Kaydin for the rank he now held. He could get used to this. I still can't believe it, the other guard said. He was 9th prong, died on assignment while in the Daxodian wildlands, and now he is back and alive, and a 3rd prong on top of that. He's either a ghost or there's something reeking of spoiled fish about. Calm yourself, Creighton, the guard at the table said. He is our superior. We could get written up for this if we don't get our act together. Creighton, the standing guard, remained quiet. The one at the table was clearly the higher ranking and more experienced of the two. That was more like it. Kaydin realized this guard might be a good person to get to know. He had said a dear friend of his died on that same assignment. There was a small chance he knew who that could be. It was something they shared. A sad thing, yes, but it was a bond that connected them, and bonds led to news and knowledge which he greatly desired. "What is your name?" Caden asked. "My name is Sir Patrick, I'm Fifth Prong, currently a gate guard for Otto's Inn as you can see," the guard at the table answered. "I apologize for our behavior up to this point, Sir Caden. If I had known, I would have properly welcomed you." "It's fine." That was perfectly understandable. "I would have done the same. Now knowing what monsters and foul things lurk back there, you're completely justified in how you treated me. You were doing your job properly. And by the way, can we finally go in?" "Of course, Sir Caden. And if you don't mind, I actually want to speak more with you later. Once off your shift, find me. My kobold friend and I will be staying here until at least midday tomorrow." Sir Patrick got out another key and opened the main gate door. "Enjoy your stay," he said as he held the door open for them to pass through. Caden and Shoshu entered. It was about time for a nice night at Otto's Inn.